Hello guys, today we're talking about what if China became democratic. Basically, China became democratic in our world. Basically, Russia would not be very happy as China would become more pro-friendly. Trump would immediately not be enemies of China anymore, as China is now a more pro-Western aligned country as well, and is willing to work with Trump now on negotiations as well. There would be less tariffs towards China as well. Also, North Korea would cease to exist. North Korea is mostly situated on China, and the Koreas would unite into one country after the collapse of North Korea, making Korea now a nuclear power, and mostly because North Korea's economy would be completely collapsed and the people would just revolt against Kim Jong-un, regardless of how good his campaigns are. However, one country would still not be friendly towards China, and that is India. India and China have a lot of disputed territory around here, especially here and here. And of course, China still wants these lands, so of course India and China are still rivals, despite them both being democracies as well. Russia's influence would also weaken as well, and Putin would become less popular, and the Ukraine war would end without Chinese support. The Ukraine and Russia will have a demilitarized zone right here to make sure the war never happens again. Most of Africa would kind of go into chaos because the CCP was kind of fighting a lot of these countries as well here. However, the new China would be promoting more democratic values into Africa and instead of exploiting them, which means over time Africa will become less exploited and be more aligned with the West. Europe would also be very happy that China as well. But there is still one big problem. China's birth rates are still only 1 children per woman, which is something that I think the Democratic Chinese government will try to do as well. And undo the horrible atrocity done to the Chinese people by the communist government. To implement similar things to what Japan, Korea have implemented, increase the birth rate at least to 1.3 or 1.2, very similar to Japan. However, China's population will decline. Even if China becomes a democratic country, China has one of the lowest birth rates in the world and has a rapidly declining population as well, Also, Taiwan will also formally integrate into China as well, as they both share a similar government. So Taiwan will peacefully integrate into China because they both are democratic Chinas, and there is no need for two Chinas as well. So Taiwan will become a part of China, unless the Taiwanese identity is so strong, where China says, "Hey, Taiwan, you get to be your own separate country," kind of like Korea and Japan is right now. Yeah. Also, the pro-CCP backed countries like Laos and Myanmar would collapse as well. These countries are mostly backed by the CCP. Myanmar would go back into a civil war, and Laos would collapse as a communist government as well. Yeah. Vietnam would still be fine because they're not reliant on China as much as Laos and Myanmar. And also, these two countries would also kind of collapse as well, as these two countries right here are kind of reliant on China and India. Bhutan may survive, but Nepal will probably have its Chinese-backed government collapse as well. Also, the pro-democratic country China will also expand its military into Central Asia to try to keep places like Afghanistan more peaceful as well. Also, the suppression of the Uyghur population will be gone as well, and the new Chinese government will allow a freedom of religion, the Muslims in this part of China to practice their religion freely as well. Also, there will be no longer state-imposed atheism, and people will be allowed to practice whatever religion they want in China. And that will be what happens if China was a democratic state.